Welcome to the final episode in this season of Shaking Up Your Artful Life. So we're going to begin today with sparkly watercolor ornaments. Now these ornaments are so beautiful, and the way that they just turn and catch the light, I love it. You know I'm a big fan of anything sparkly, and the good news is they're really, really easy to make. So the first thing is I am going to start with black paint. Now, even though these paints have sparkle, they're still watercolor, so you still want to use a watercolor paper. That means you want to use a nice thick paper that's really going to hold your paint. Now I made a little key of the different colors because how they appear out of the tube and how they appear on the paper is totally different. You can see that as I move the paper, some of them appear to even be more than one color. You can get violet and blue and green all in one color. But essentially I have some interference colors, and this means that basically they interfere with the light, okay? So you're going to get that kind of shiny metallic look. Then the chameleon colors are the ones that have lots of different kinds of colors in them. And then finally, the sparkles are the ones that just look like glitter. Now, a lot of times I've used pens that do this, acrylic paints that do this, but this is watercolor. It's just cool because it's transparent and you can take advantage of all the things that watercolor does. So you can use pan watercolors, you can use tube watercolors, it's just your personal preference. One of the things I really like to do is I like to be a little bit of a rebel, and I like to take the tube of watercolor, and instead of putting it on my palette, I'm gonna put it right here onto my paper. Now this just looks like white, maybe sparkly something. It doesn't really look like much, but as soon as we add water and a brush, things are gonna get magical. Ugh. Look at that yummy, scrummy, purple, shiny wonderfulness. And you can do this any way you want. You can scrub the paint in there. You can do beautiful lines. You can draw butterflies and, you know, other things that are magical creatures. But look at that lusciousness. And what will happen, let's put out a couple different colors, is at first you'll think, gosh, all of these colors look identical. They all look like they're kind of white, maybe a little bit of, you know, sparkle in them, but it's really hard to tell the difference between all the different paints. The good news is as soon as water gets involved, all of those doubts go out of the way, and you can always, always, always make a key to help you so that you know exactly what's going on. So you can see this one is kind of a milky, cool, metallic-y purple. This one is going to be more of a green, depending how you look at it. And then this one is going to be blue and shiny. And you can see that I get a soft blend, and I can just add water to make these all come together and play nicely. So now again, I can use these exactly how I would any kind of watercolors, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make some Christmas ornaments. And so I have a bunch of different shapes here. Now the only rule about the shape is that it has to be symmetrical, okay? If it's symmetrical, then you're good to go. Then the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit of a few colors of paint and just put it out here on my palette. Now you can see that when I put these paints out onto a white palette, they really almost appear to be pretty darn identical. And that's, I think that's kind of exciting. It makes it really fun to paint with them. Now, you don't have to use these watercolors just by themselves. You can certainly use them to embellish things like underwater scenes and fairy scenes and butterflies and all sorts of stuff like that. But basically, I'm going to start with maybe some wet on wet techniques. So I'm going to generously come in with some wet, and then right up against it, I'm going to put another color, and we're going to get a nice blend. Do you see how that starts to blend out? You can even add some droplets and watch these little purple sparkles droplet right in like so, which is really cool. Now, if you add any of this wet onto dry, like let's say that I want to do some simple lines like so, it's not going to blend with what's underneath because the rules of watercolor are still here, even though this is sparkly. But depending on how you hold this, sometimes you see the lines, and because watercolor is transparent, sometimes they disappear. Super cool, right? You can also do one of my favorite watercolor tricks. You just leave a circle of water or any shape of water. Then you take some watercolor, dab it in, and you can watch it travel. Literally, I'm watching glitter crawl through here. It's so cool. And the colors will all blend. And in the end, you're gonna get something that looks like this. So you can decide how much or how little you want to cover your paper. But to make our ornament, essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold everything in half, just like so. Now I have several here that are already folded, and you'll notice that I use a sort of fancy star shape. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add adhesive. If I were gonna make these a permanent part of my decor, meaning I was really gonna trot them out every single Christmas, I would use a wet adhesive instead of a dry one. But essentially I'm just pressing the folded pieces together, and I'm gonna continue this process of simply pressing the folded pieces together. And you want to use plenty of adhesive to make sure that it really all permanently sticks together. But we can do this pretty quickly. And we're going to put all of them together one more time. Put them all together, wrap it around like so. And just like that, all I need to do is add a string, and I've got this amazing sparkly ornament in no time at all. So I hope you will dress up your Christmas tree or just your home